Do you mind? I'm trying to film a video here. Hi, my name is Daisy. I'm half pixie on my father's side and half mermaid on my mother's side, even though you can't tell that I'm half mermaid because I'm not in the water, I'm on land. And as you may have noticed, this is not the fairyland. I was born in the fairyland. I grew up in the fairyland. But I've been fascinated with mortals and the mortal world ever since my sisters and my dad took me here when I was little. I remember watching them and thinking how funny they were. They live for such a short amount of time, but they do so much in that short amount of time. Fairies are immortal, we live forever. So most of what happens in the fairy world is a lot of sitting around, relaxing, reading, eating, swimming, just doing fairy stuff. You don't really have anything important to do unless you have a job, which I don't. I'm not anybody important in the fairy world. It's not like I'm a princess or royalty or any kind of important court fae. I'm just me. But I do love the human world. And I would always beg my dad and my sisters to bring me to the human world whenever I could. I just love to sit and watch. And I remember one day I was probably the equivalent of a 6-year-old. Don't exactly want to explain how fairy age works, but it was the equivalent of 6. And there was another little girl playing in the park that I was watching, and I just couldn't help myself. My sisters had gone off to play some pixie pranks on some other mortal, and I saw my opportunity. I ran up to the little girl, and I put on my glamour so that I looked human and wouldn't scare her. And I introduced myself, and we started playing. And we just played all day long. It was so much fun. Human children are so different than fairy children in ways I can't really even explain. But that was it. I always loved the humans. And I would go and collect things that belonged to the humans and just have fun. And I could disguise myself as a human and talk with them and never let them know what I really was. When I first started going to the human world, they knew about fairies. They knew that we existed, but most of them were afraid of us. You have a lot of literature and lore that talks about the fairies and how people used to treat us, and the different things that they used to do to ward us off, which I think is silly. Why would you want to ward me off? I'm not going to do anything to hurt anybody, but I still didn't want people to be afraid of me. I wanted to make friends with the humans, not lord myself over them, not make. I didn't want them to think that I thought that I was better than them, because I'm not, in all honesty. But, okay, I'm getting off track. So I would come and visit the humans whenever I wanted, or more, whenever I could get permission. Dad let me go talk to the humans more so than Mom did, but like I said, Mom's a mermaid, and she spent a lot of time underwater. Which is also fun. I love being underwater. I love the ocean and exploring the ocean, and it's just so much fun. But anyway, my trips would start off as day trips, and then as I got older and was able to come alone, they started becoming longer and longer, to the point where I was spending more time in the human world than I was at home in the fairy world. And I still live in the fairy world. That is technically my home. I have a home there with my dad, and I have a home underwater with my mom. we have this weird land water home where my parents can live together, but where dad doesn't drown and mom doesn't dry out. It's weird. It's unique, and maybe I'll tell you more about it sometime later. But I do have a home there, and I have a room up on land, and I have a room underwater so I can sleep where I want to. But I also have a home here in the human world. I've kind of always wanted to be the center of attention. Wherever I go, that's probably the pixie in me. But so when I heard about this YouTube thing, I thought I might as well give it a shot. It looks pretty easy. Just sit down and introduce myself and talk about myself. And I could talk about myself. I could talk about myself all day. I could sit and talk about myself for 100 years if you'd let me. But most of you won't live that long. Unless you were born today. If you're born today, then you might live 100 years. And if you're born today, happy birthday. You're a tiny little baby, and you probably don't understand a word I'm saying, but hi! Anyway. So, that's it. That's it about me. If you have any questions, I will love to answer any questions about my life in the fairy world. I will talk a lot about that. I'll also talk a lot about my life here in the human world, and the friends that I know, and what I do. And what I do in the human world is mostly just have fun. I like exploring. I like reading. It's actually really, really fun to read your books about fairies. I don't know why, but that just makes me giggle every time, because there are some books that are actually pretty accurate, and then there are others that I'm just like, this person is making up everything they know or think they know about fairies. But they're all interesting. Anyway, I think that's it for now. I'm kind of out of things to say, but I will see you in the next video. I don't exactly know when that one will be, but it will be. It will happen. It will exist, I promise. And I'll see you guys then. Okay? Bye!